So thank you so much for attending, especially in such a bad weather. At least we can't complain here. It's good weather. Let me be precise. Let me talk in 30 minutes. So this will allow you to go home, hopefully safe, and sound. So the topic will be teaching Islam versus preaching Islam. And the big question is how to create an ideology-free course on religion. And I'd like to slide to start. Hasan, slide. You change it. Thank you. To start by asking you this silly question. So imagine with me. Imagine with me two people. I have more in the picture. This is what I found on Google, pictures. Imagine two men in a boat, in a sinking boat, in the middle of a sea storm. Okay? So I'm going to ask a question, be prepared. So one is a theist, a believer in God, and one is an atheist. Okay? And the question, who will survive? What do you think? Let me ask one more time. You are distracted. Okay? So two people, just two people, in a sinking boat, in the middle of a sea storm. Okay? One is a theist, he believes in God, a faithful believer in God, and one is an atheist, he doesn't believe in God. Who will survive and who will sink? Give me an answer quickly. Just guess.
The atheist.
The atheist will survive?
Just because they won't wait for a sign from God.
From a sign from God, they're going to be more rational, you think? Other answers? Simply, it's the person who knows how to swim. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Right? We're in the middle of a sea storm. The boat is sinking. The one who will survive is the one who knows how to swim. Makes sense, right? But why am I asking this question in a talk about teaching Islam, versus preaching Islam? Why is it even relevant to what I'm talking about? If I twist a little bit my question, you will understand the relevance. Clearly, I'm not here to teach you a course on swimming. Trust me, I'm the last person to do that. Okay? I don't know even how to swim. Imagine two professors teaching a course on religion. Okay? Let's say teaching a course on Islam. This is what I teach. One is a theist and one is an atheist. Or let's say one have a religious background and one doesn't have any religious background. Who will do a better job in terms of providing an ideology-free course on religion? A good, let's say, course on religion. The theist or the atheist? What do you think? You got your time to think? I'll tell you, similar to my first question, is the person who got the training how to teach religion. So it doesn't provide much help, what I want to say. If you come from a religious background or a religious background when it comes to teaching religion. So to be able to provide a good course, thought-provoking course, progressive course, academic course on religion is the training you got. Are you trained enough to do that or not? So being a faithful believer yourself or not is not related to it. Now, maybe some might think, the non-believer or someone with no religious, background or commitment of any kind, maybe can do a better job in terms of, providing an ideology-free course, but it's not the case because it's not that simple. Many times, the non-believer will just replace the based on love and blind submission, attitude by a based on hate attitude of religion. So in case I'm replacing preaching, for example, in case of Islam, preaching Islam, in case I'm replacing that by Islamophobia, both are not good enough in terms of providing an ideology-free approach to religion. Both are equally problematic because what we need at the end of the day is objectivity and objective approach to religion. Now, clearly, course on Islam, you want to start by, you won't expect as a student, or you won't think as a professor of, teach Islamophobia in the classroom, right? You won't do that, or you won't teach it from an atheist point of view. Clearly, this is too simple. This is not my concern or my question. My question is, what are we really providing? Irrational theism or rational theism? And what's the difference? By rational theism is theism, belief, as based on evidence, arguments, logic. Irrational theism now is theism as what we do in congregations, what is practice. It's practiced religion. It's lived religion. It's religion because, I have this religious commitment because it provides me with a sense of belonging, for example, to a certain group, a certain congregation. It's religion because it provides me happiness, answers to some of my questions, but it's not based on evidence theism. Okay? So both, I would say that the real question is it irrational theism or is it rational theism? So my idea, and let's go maybe to the second slide, my idea is, what is the choice, theism or atheism? Preaching Islamophobia, as I said before, is as bad as preaching Islam when you're doing it from an academic point of view. And one of the reasons, first of all, because of the dynamics in our modern classrooms. In American universities, the countdown has already started for the lecture-based education, when one person, even if he was a professor or she was a professor, tells or shares the little she knows, and the 20 or more are just passively receiving that kind of education. Me and Ifrah, we had this wonderful discussion today about based on discussion courses, and she shared with me how much she learned from this type of education, and therefore turning our classroom into learning communities is not only a priority in the American classroom, it's a must. And therefore, there's no room for preaching one ideological attitude. There's no room for that. For a shared community, especially for my classes, I have big community of students. I have here Hasan with me. We have diverse body of audience of students from all different backgrounds. Theists, atheists, Christians, committed Muslims, traditionalists, agnostics, all kinds, students who know almost everything about religion, students who know nothing about religion. So when you're addressing that type of audience, you should be asking questions more than preaching for some set or a certain set of answers. Especially, I would say, with classes on culture and religion. Because let's go back to the question, why do we offer those classes in the first place? We offer those classes to go beyond the walls of our universities. We offer those to make our students better citizens of the globe, better global citizens and international citizens. So therefore, preaching for one set or specific set of answers is not the ideal or even a good approach to it. Now, why it's, the question is very easy why we should be doing that. There are some challenges and difficulties. In the few minutes I'm going to be sharing some of them, some difficulties, trying to provide an ideology-free approach to religion in Islamic-based or classes on Islam. Slide, Hasan, please. And this is a closed approach to it. So let's start by the first difficulty, Hasan. Another one, yes? The nature of religion as a topic to study, okay? Clearly, scientists in their labs, they don't need training on how to detach themselves from what they're studying, right? If I'm studying, let's say, imagine a set of germs, right? And I'm absolutely, totally in love with this set of germs, right? Imagine a mad scientist or a scientist, I'm observing them growing, increasing, declining, they're proving my theories. Or let's imagine I think of them as, hateful creatures bringing harm to everyone and as ugly creatures. Both attitudes are not that personal, and as long as the scientists or scientists are not trying to reach conclusions before doing the research, I would say it's still objective research. In religion, what happens usually if you start from preaching for religion, or if you don't have the training on how to detach yourself from the religion you're teaching, what will happen is trying to push for certain conclusions before the research, defending your own research, or even worse, defending your own beliefs will do nothing but will stop everyone else researchers. If we just think of everyone in the class as possible future researchers and not only as followers of the only as one researcher, the professor of the teacher, then we can think of it differently. The nature of religion itself is problematic as a topic to study and a topic to teach. Because when we're speaking of reality, it gets very problematic to speak about any religious reality at all. But by contrast, when we're speaking about scientific realities, maybe we will have, or we can have more confidence in doing it. Even expressions we use in common day or in common day religious practice, when we say things like God says in the Quran, no one knows what God says in the Quran. It's our interpretation of it. So it's just metaphoric. It's just metaphoric. When it comes to teaching it, we should have a more humble approach to it, I would say. In addition to acknowledging our subjectivity while we approach religions, we should also acknowledge our fallibility as human beings as well. Reading the divine text doesn't make us divine. It's just people, human beings, trying to make sense of the text. And here, maybe I'll read from what Zainuddin Saradar beautifully shares with us as he says, a divine text doesn't yield a divine meaning. The meaning attribute to it can only be the product of a human understanding. A timeless book has meaning only in time. It can only speak to us in our own time and circumstances. So again, it's our own understanding of the text. This is what we should be stressing. Let me move to the second difficulty, Hasan. Maybe this, I can say, it's more psychological difficulty. The growing Islamophobia in media and the minority attitude. Slide. The minority attitude in the United States and the group thinking that Muslims as minority should be saving themselves, and therefore critical thinking, rethinking some practices that are deeply just cultural practices and not religious practices, criticizing some religious aspects, going after their reality, sometimes is suppressed and considered as only a way of airing, dirty laundry that professors should be involved in, because the attitude that should be prioritized, since we're speaking about minorities, is just face-saving attitude. This is more psychological hindrance or obstacle, I would say. More, the politicization of religion. And this is Muna Tahawi. I teach this book on my class, Gender and Sex in the Arab World, among other many books. And I had a short video that to save time, I won't be sharing with you. But in that video, she speaks about this attitude. So this attitude goes back to the current conflict between left wing and the right wing in the United States. Many times, out of good intention, left wing tries to support unconditionally any claims made by minorities like the Muslim minority, because they don't want to provide the right wing any opportunity to criticize minorities. This unconditional support, I would say, is good, but at the end is supporting the more monolithic traditional view of religion. And it's, as Muna Tahawi explains, when others or other voices, reformer voices from inside religion and from inside academia, they come, to the surface of discussion, they're kind of suppressed due to good intentions, mainly by the left wing, because they don't want that minority or that religion to be criticized, or they don't want those same arguments to be used and many times abused by the right wing. More difficulties, Hassan? Next, the absence of clear standards and expectations. Earlier, I addressed the community we wish to have as a community of learners in the classroom. You're not alone in doing that. It's a student-centered classroom. So when you're speaking about touchy topics like religion, you're going into critical thinking. You're going sometimes on what can be considered very progressive by some and might be considered offensive by others, right? So what you need is to have all of your students on the same page like you. And therefore, in my class in Women in the Quran, what I do is including a trigger warning. Let's have it, Hassan, by the beginning of the class. I'm not going to read all of you. This is what I share with my students every time I start with this class. Freedom of speech and expression will be respected through the semester, and it's an academic right for instructor, guests, and all students. So, and so forth and so on. Furthermore, I ask students to read the syllabus carefully first day of the class and share with me, sign a consent. I'm ready for this type of course. And I advise them, please drop the course if you consider politics, religion, or sexuality topics taboo questions and topics we shouldn't be discussing in our classrooms. This is a classroom where, all opinions equally are valued and should be brought to the table of discussion. And guess what? My advice is to trust your students. When I started teaching religion at University of Nebraska, with a diverse body of students, I thought I'm going to get myself into too many troubles. Once you get the standards, they're clear. Once students are on board with you, they're doing get along with you, you will be amazed how good they do. Hassan, maybe you share that with me. You've been with me in the class. It's amazing. All kinds of amazing discussions. Once we have nothing sacred in this class but freedom of discussion, freedom of expression. A prioritization of the historical approach. Now, the conflict in the Islamic history on who had the right to exegetical interpretation, who had the right to interpret the Quranic text, that conflict took all kinds of forms and shapes. But a big conflict is between two schools of thinking, which, Sham, maybe you remember I explained them during the year, between a tafsir bil-ma'thur school and a tafsir bil-ra'i school. Now, tafsir bil-ma'thur school is Quranic interpretation, religious interpretation, as based on heritage. So this way, I can claim one interpretation if it's supported by other figures in the history adopting that interpretation. The other school is a tafsir bil-ra'i. Ra'i in Arabic means intellectual thinking, mind. So this approach to exegetical interpretation doesn't require any backward investigation into what did scholars, people of authority did before me. It's my own intellectual effort to explore the religious text. Now, during the development of Islamic jurisprudence and tafsir, even tafsir, the conflict had to be ended sometimes, not, and I would say the majority of times, not by way of convincing the less fortunate parties, but by way of marginalizing them, excluding them, and sometimes even executing them. And therefore, teaching a course on religion, considering only the historical approach to it, unless you're teaching a course on the history of religion, you're free to do that without considering that conflict, without allowing students critical thinking, will be, ignoring that kind of conflict which took place in history. Other difficulties, Hassan, lack of training, and therefore, I started with what is the best approach to do? Do we get as professors, instructors, the training? I told you that the professor will survive is the professor with the training, enough training, and as similar to the traveler or passenger who will survive is the one in the middle of a sea storm, the one who knows how to swim. So it depends on training. Am I trained to do that? Am I designing my course as an ideology, a free approach? Typically in my course, what we do with any topic, like for example, polygamy in the Quran, we start by reading the text first. And we allow now students, even before having any background of it or what others said about it, to give their own opinion. So it starts with hermeneutics, with analyzing the text itself. You're free to reach any conclusions about it. And only afterwards, after that, we can maybe go to what others said about it, the conflicts about it, schools of thinking religion in history said about it. We read those quotes starting from medieval interpretations and ending sometimes by YouTube videos from scholarly debates and modern debates. But it starts with an ideology-free approach that this is the text. You read it yourself and you analyze it itself, and you'll be amazed how great students do when they don't have any, restriction on reading and interpreting the text for themselves. I had so many comments from students that this allowed me, to feel kind of, I'm a participant in the process of learning about something. I'm not passively getting it from you, or I have to follow others blindly. Other difficulties is academic exclusivism. And here I can refer to the Western-centered nature of modern Quranic studies, where all intellectual production produced outside of the narrow circle of Western-centered studies kind of marginalized, like what is produced in the Islamic and the Arab world, is kind of marginalized. So we don't really have that real sense of cooperation between each other. This can be explained by different theories, and the that type excluding each other as intellectuals, it's mutual. So you can't really blame people doing Quranic studies in the West or people doing Quranic studies in the Middle East and Islamic countries, because it's mutual. Maybe part of it in Islamic countries or in the Middle East is it due to conspiracy theory and a lack of trust here. And maybe it's the heritage we still have from the Orientalist claim to intellectual superiority that Edward Said famously argued for in his book Orientalism, 1978. Slide, Hassan. I'm not gonna read for you all of it, but probably if we go back a little bit to the Orientalist heritage, maybe we can find an explanation to this intellectual behavior and the mutual excluding of the other. Many now, in an acknowledgement to the Western-centered nature of modern Quranic studies, like Joseph Lombard, they stress the idea to embrace and adopt a greater epistemological diversity that can allow everyone now to have a share of working with each other, especially, I would say, with Quranic studies, because of the nature of the need to use translations to do it, since the Quran is written in Arabic, a language notoriously famous for being difficult and defying translation. Many intellectuals argue that once you translate something, it will lose its meaning, its real connotation, its history, and the Quran is not an exception. This is general. We need to appeal to scientific-based research methodologies. Unfortunately, many think that scientific methodologies are not really that needed when we teach a course on religion. I would say it's even more needed because it will provide me with tools that I can use to handle all these different layers of challenges and problems I've been addressing. So what can be really wrong in a class on religion? Nothing you say can be wrong, I would say, except if you commit logical contradictions. So thinking that this is politically right or wrong won't make it right or wrong. What will really make it right or wrong is if you say something like, today is Thursday, right? So when I say something like, today is Thursday here, and it's not Thursday here, the same place, then I have to stop you. Or an argument like, God doesn't exist because there's evil in the world, or God exists because there's evil in the world. This is contradiction now. Or saying something, any kind of saying that it's P and not P at the same time, logical contradictions. And there otherwise is not wrong. Thinking of something as politically wrong doesn't make it wrong. It should be scientifically and logically wrong. Thank you, Hasan. The red line between research and teaching. So we all wear different hats. When you're in the classroom, some argue that you have to lose half of yourself by the door. I argue you have to lose all of yourself by the door. We all have research agendas, our own beliefs. You can go all over the way, prove your own limited set of conclusions. But in the classroom, your responsibility as a teacher, my responsibility as a teacher, should be prioritized to everyone else. Because if I go as a researcher, defend by nature a limited set of conclusions I have, what I'll do, I'll defend them, but I'll stop the potentiality of 20 researchers in the classroom. You can do that in conference, you can do that in a book, in articles, but in the classroom, you're a teacher. My responsibility is to foster everyone as a future researcher themselves. And therefore, the best strategy is to ask questions, not to provide answers. I can have all kinds of arguments, and my responsibility is to help my students, providing them the tools for their own research. A student once told me, Abla, what if the Quran was all fabricated? And I was, what you will need for this type of argument, archaeology. Find archaeological evidence that will help with that. So whatever my student as a future researcher would need, we should be able to provide. This is you as a teacher, not as a researcher. And I find many similarities between teaching and parenting. As parents, it's not our responsibility to push students to fulfill our unfulfilled dreams. We have to help them be themselves. Khalil Gibran, the famous Lebanese American author, once wrote that our children are not our children. They are the children of life. They don't come from us. They come through us. And therefore, I argue, instead of trying to create a cloning of me, followers for me, I should be trying to help students be themselves, their future themselves, the best themselves they can be. I don't care if you think of yourself as too precious, you should be duplicated. Even nature doesn't do that. We don't have copies of people. It's too boring even for God to do that, right? So why do we have an academia to try to convince everyone to be like us? Again, there is a barrier that we should keep as teachers between me as a teacher and me as a researcher. The last one, the most tricky one of all, is the ideology replacement trap. So many times what happens, we just replace old ideology by new ideology. Now, replacing old ideology, obsolete ideology that can't work for us anymore, by a modern, more fancy ideology is still ideology. For example, replacing medieval readings of the Quran by their nature were, less gender egalitarian, by more fancy gender egalitarian reading, because I'd love it to have a more gender egalitarian interpretation, is still ideology if it's not out of critical thinking and analyzing of the text. The famous Egyptian reformer Nasr Hamid Abu Zaid says, doing that will leave the text under the mercy of the interpreter, which means I'm a feminist, the text will turn into a feminist text. I'm a Marxist, the text will turn into a Marxist text. I'm a reformer, whatever my agenda is, I'll try to get out of the religious text, because a religious text is an authority at the end of the day. It will turn into what I'm thinking the text to be, or what I'm wishing the text to be. It's very tricky. It can happen to anyone. But again, replacing old ideology by new ideology is still an ideology. And therefore, Nasr Hamid Abu Zaid asks and argues for what he calls democratic hermeneutics. What is democratic hermeneutics? It's allowing the text, the Quranic text or the religious text, to speak for itself instead of imposing and projecting myself on it. It's, if I can put it differently, it's a commitment to no commitment other than what the text says. I'm not sure if we still have slides, Hasan. This is quoting from him. And let me end with some student evaluations at the end of the day. What can tell us if we did it right or wrong is what students share with us. I picked some student evaluations where this is exactly what I look for when I provide a course on religion. A student says, teacher was very well organized, outgoing, very open-minded, always wanted to know our opinions, and was very accepting of each and every opinion, very nice, helpful, understanding. I like those words, it's my evaluation. But I want to stress, other opinions. This is what I want, the message I want to give, and I want students to, because it's their right. She was interested in all students' opinions. This was a great class, and I learned a lot as a Catholic. Dr. Abla did a great job of keeping us engaged, and she was always unbiased and open to hear all opinions. This is what we want to accomplish in our courses on religion. Gandhi once said, persuasion is violence. So any way to try to use authority to push for certain set of conclusions, and to assume conclusions before the research itself takes place, it's violence. Teaching religion or teaching Islam from an attitude that I described as preaching Islam shouldn't be taking place in our academic institutions. It's better to take place otherwise, or not to take, or even better not to take place at all. Yesterday I had a wonderful discussion with Professor Jaweed here at Rutgers, and he told me, similar to what I do, that he starts every class by telling students, guys, this is not madrasa, remember. And madrasa is the more traditional institute of teaching religion. And this is the little I know, this is the boring part. Now the most interesting part is to get questions from you. Thank you for listening.